everybody, Dacob here. Welcome back to the Fashion Bunker. Today's perfume review time, and the perfume that I will be reviewing is Lorenzo Villoresi's from Florence, Sandalo Eau de Toilette. Let's move in close. That is the bottle. I do have the older version that still has a sticker on it. I think the newer rendition of the design of the packaging of the bottle has just a printed Lorenzo Villoresi Firenze Sandalo Eau de Toilette in silver on the actual bottle. But this bottle it doesn't have any batch code numbers. Back in the day, Lorenzo Villoresi did not do any batch code numbering. But this one was from around 2010-ish. So it's 7 years old. And it is, you know, the sandal fragrance. I don't know. I don't believe that there's any other sandalwood fragrance out there that is as sandalwoody as Sandalo is. So I sprayed it here 40 minutes ago on the wrist, but I'm going to spray it fresh on this side as well. And also the sprayer is really Majestic. It's 7 years old, but it has that atomizer that really it goes all over the place. And it smells divine. Now, let's get into the ingredients. Top notes. What are the top notes here? Lemon, Brazilian rosewood, titgrain, lavender, and orange. Then we have middle notes, Bulgarian rose, neroli, sandalwood, labdanum. And then we have base notes, musk, opoponax, vetiver, patchouli, oak moss, amber, and sandalwood again. So it's like a double feature of sandalwood. And there are other ingredients there as well, but I have the feeling that with this one, all of these other, especially the top notes, like with the lavender and the citrusy notes, they all contribute to circle around that sandalwood to kind of make it pop even more. So none of those ingredients are there to create more of a rich, textured base for Sandalo, but rather they're all there to enhance the sandalwood experience, and they're balanced in a way that they create a dry effect. This is a very, very dry fragrance. There's nothing moist, wet, balsamic, oily in it. It literally gives you a very austere feeling of almost a religious experience, because, you know, I mean, incense is something that usually people smell when they enter churches during the mass or whatever, or what have you. But sandalwood is, by its nature of being one of the most ancient, oldest ingredients in perfumery, and also for, who knows, depending on which culture we're talking about, rituals even, sandalwood definitely delivers a vision in my mind of kind of a past that is very much rooted into rituals, into certain beliefs, limitations of the population, because it kind of reminds me of a time when people really believed in the beyond and would be very, very superstitious and would have the fear that, you know, simple superstitions of today is some people don't really, they think it brings bad luck if a black cat crosses their path. That's why I'm wearing black today. I'm your black cat. I want to kind of play with that, with, you know, with esoteric and also with superstitions in this video, because also by the nature of the bottle, kind of very medicinal type of bottle, almost as if it would hold something to cure us, but it could also be a poison. It could be something that some scientist or pharmacist is using to experiment, to create something else out of it. Anyway, sandalwood definitely reminds me of something from a time long gone. And so the dry down and then the fresh. You know, the top notes are slightly makeup-y, cosmetic-y, and the dry down dries literally down, as they say. Dry down is dry. As I said in the beginning, this fragrance is from beginning to end a dry fragrance. However, the opening notes have a bit more freshness to them because of the citruses and because of the fact that the citruses kind of tend to freshen up the fragrance that then becomes much more subdued as time goes by, and it becomes much more dry and less sparkly, and it becomes really as if you would grain the sandalwood and make it turn it into dust and then rub it all over your body and then have that kind of residue of wood on you. That's how this thing smells. It's almost as if you had a layer of slight velvety flocking on your skin of something microscopic that a sandalwood could be if you would really grain it, or if you would really kind of press it and compress it and rub it into little miniature pieces and then kind of like a powder, just like rub it into your skin. That's the effect it has on me. A lot of people say that sandalwood is never really a very precise smell. Sandalwood is all about the notion we have of sandal and how we combine various ingredients to achieve the effect of sandalwood. And in a way, I do agree with this, except to me, nothing screams sandalwood as sandalo. So I have, other perfumes that I enjoy very much that behold inside of them sandalwood, but none of them is quite so antique, quite so otherworldly, or perhaps more than otherworldly, none of the other sandalwood fragrances I enjoy are so archaic. There's like this ancient aspect of this fragrance that really makes me feel like I am in one of those areas of the world where there's almost a sort of deserty feel. The sun is always really shining very, very strong, and then you have this tree from time to time in the middle of all of these brown, golden, yellowy hues all around you, and you're thirsty, you're constantly thirsty, and by smelling sandalwood you become even more thirsty because it's a very dry scent. So it's a scent that definitely evokes absence of biological matter. It evokes, that's why it's so spiritual, it's so godly, because it really represents the absence of body. And because of that dryness, it doesn't have anything liquid about it. The smell has nothing biological about it, has nothing of the body about it. There's nothing wet about it. There's nothing moist about it. Human bodies are made up of 80% water, or even more. And this one, gives you the feeling that there is no water. Everything is dry, and it really smells like the place where you would find the original sandal, the sandalwood. And it gives you that impression that when you smell it, it automatically becomes ritualistic and almost religious, because it's spiritual by its nature, by the nature of its dryness. It's spiritual and not physical. But other fragrances that I like a lot with sandal would definitely be Egoist by Chanel. I have here pretty old bottle batch. Batch is 1001. Chanel every 7, 8 to 10 years repeats their batch codes. So this is not indeed a new bottle, because now in 2017 we're at 100 something or 17 something, or maybe even 2 at this point. So this one is around 10 years old, you could say, and it's a softer version of sandal. It's a medicinal type of dry sandal, but it has something balsamic and slightly wet in it. So this one is much more earthy and less spiritual. And then, of course, one of the loves of my life is Bois des Îles. It is said that Egoist is a rendition, is kind of like a further development or flanker to Bois des Îles. Bois des Îles is from the 20s originally, and Jacques Polch has reformulated it, and now, this is the Eau de Toilette. I do love the Eau de Toilette, and I love the Pure Parfum. The Eau de Parfum is a mess. I would not recommend you to ever get the Eau de Parfum of this one. Here, the sandalwood, this is an interesting example juxtaposed to Sandalo. Bois des Îles is is a completely abstract vision of sandalwood. In fact, you know, the title of this fragrance, like the forests of the islands, by its mere definition, is surrounded by, islands are surrounded by water, and there's a lot of humidity and wetness there, and they're very isolated in a kind of a bubble, in a utopia almost. And that's how Bois des Iles smells. It's a very abstract sandalwood. This one is not. It's a very concrete spiritual vision of sandalwood. And as I said before, I have the feeling I'm almost in this kind of desert-like space where there's a lot of heat and there is absolutely no liquids. But what this fragrance inspires me is a complete, it catapults me in a position where yes, you're thirsty, but you know that there's no need for water anymore. You know there's no need for food anymore. You let go of all of those worldly things and you kind of enter an otherworldly realm. And that's why perhaps I'm not happy with the fact that sandalwood and oud, but oud is a different story altogether, but that these two ingredients are kind of, you know, so hyped within the niche fragrance market. And as we all know, you know, niche fragrances have become the mainstream of fragrances nowadays. So sandalwood is to be seen and smelled in almost every rendition of a niche fragrance nowadays. Not just that, but it is almost abused in a way. Too many people use it. And because the true nature of sandalwood is something rare, precious, that you use in special emotional and spiritual occasions, it's not something I wish to smell on the street, you know, with every second person passing by. Mind you, I'm totally fine with everybody having their sacred moments and enlightenments, and it would be great if everybody did. But, you know, for me, being reminded that every second person passing by has that sort of determining kind of note of sandalwood within the fragrance that they wear, does the opposite to me. Doesn't allow me to experience anything in a special and sacred way anymore, but it rather tones it all down because nothing is special anymore. You know what I mean? If everything is special, nothing is special. So this is one of the reasons why I'm not quite happy with the fact that sandalwood has become so mainstream. Mind you, I love that a lot of people love how it smells, but I don't think a lot of people know how to dose it, and I don't think a lot of people know really the true meaning and the true essence of sandalwood. And I think if people would have more of an education about where sandalwood comes from, what its origins are, and what the intentions were, you know, originally when sandalwood was used by, you know, together with opoponax is another one of those ingredients. Opoponax is something that we find in the original formulation, extremely strong and almost extremely natural, in Poison by Christian Dior from the 80s. Opoponax is an interesting ingredient as well because it was considered, and we're talking centuries ago, as a resinous ingredient that literally would catch away, would fight off evil spirits. It's a fragrance that, you know, either the noble, the aristocrats, the kings would use and would literally see it as a material that doesn't smell good, but rather an ingredient or a material that has otherworldly properties. Hence, not something that should be just used on a daily basis, every minute of the day, but rather something for rituals, something for special occasions, something that can help you mark a specific time or period in your life or in achieving or achievements of some sorts, and it would kind of help you frame that special moment. And whether it be to catch off evil spirits or to protect you from negative vibes, in certain circumstances, it's definitely an ingredient that should be seen as something very intimate. Hence the reason why I use sandalo mostly at home. I very, very, very rarely would spray this one on to go out. I almost feel more vulnerable and naked if I go outside and I wear sandalo, because it makes me feel like everybody could see right through you and could harm you because you're so exposed. It is a fragrance of vulnerability in a way, because it shows how spiritual you are. It shows how much emotions you have, how much understanding you have for slight, delicate things. And that is something that is only good to show to other people if you know other people will not harm you. But as we all know, unfortunately, a lot of people out there are not good people, and there's always a potential risk and hazard out there that somebody might harm you. And this fragrance, to me, represents opening up. It represents really passing from A to B. It's almost cathartic to wear this fragrance. Hence the reason why I prefer sandalwood, always used for personal, intimate moments. It's a cathartic thing. You're in one place when you spray it on, and then through its development and evolution, you start at point A, but you definitely end at point B or C or D. You don't end up where you began. You don't do from A, circle back to A. It really kind of, you grow with it, you go through a certain experience with it. But if you belittle the actual power of sandalwood, and you just underestimate what it really stands for, and you kind of reduce it or you, let's say, you would undress it of all of those important and magical almost aspects that it has, what happens is in that case, you would take off all of its power. And by taking off all of its power, it can backfire in a way, because without you even knowing it, perhaps people will be susceptible to it. You become more immune to the smell, because if you wear it too much, your body, does not sound the alarm. Okay, let me explain this briefly, but I have in other videos of mine in the past. Basically, a lot of you complain about certain fragrances not having a proper longevity. This one is a power beast. It lasts for days, and on the skin as well as in the room when you enter. It enters really before you. But a lot of you complain about how quickly you stop smelling a fragrance that you're wearing. Now, it is true in part that many fragrances have received reformulations, partially due to the IFRA regulations forbidding certain natural ingredients to be used out of allergy reasons or whatever reasons, corporate greed as well, because a lot of chemical companies develop synthetic materials that they patent and have copyright on, and they wish to push that in their agenda. Lobbyists probably then communicate with somebody else, and they make it under the table an agreement that a certain artificial ingredient has to become normed rather than the natural ingredient, which they can't really copyright. So perfumers end up not being able to use the natural ingredient anymore, so they have to resort to some sort of artificial ingredient. But then, guess what? Pharmaceutical industry already purchased and developed and bought the patent and the copyright for certain ingredients, so everybody else has to buy that one. And that's really lame and bullshit. But back to us. So there's that reason why you might not smell so much new formulations of old perfumes that you love, or new releases of fragrances that you love. But also there's another aspect to that, being the fact that your body is like your entire body is built up to protect you, your soul, your essence, your being, and your health. The body always tells you, if you really know how to listen to it, what's good for you and what not. But the body also has to learn. And the body is set up in this way that the second that something comes close to you, whether it be a certain taste that you're not used to, or, and here we have the perfume, a certain scent or smell that you're not used to, your body triggers an alarm. So if you have never smelled sandalwood before, and then all of a sudden you have sandalwood in your life, you're going to be like, oh my God, you're going to sense it all the time, because your body's going to think that's a potential hazard, it's potential poison hazard. But then with time, your body's going to understand, wait a minute, I'm not being harmed by this smell. This smell is not hazardous to me. So your awareness level is going to go down. You're going to smell it less. And this is the problem, because the less you smell it, the more you're going to use it. If you abund with it during the daytime going outside, in the middle of all other people, you're going to keep overdoing it, overdosing it, and you're going to be smelling it anymore because you're so used to it, but other people around you are going to be suffocating because you're doing it too much. And that's something you got to be very careful with, and especially with sandalwood, because of the properties that it has that I've mentioned before, which are noble properties, which are properties and not noble in the sense of aristocratic, but noble in the sense of soul research, in the sense of spirituality. So don't abuse spirituality, but rather dose it correctly, enjoy it, and understand that it's there for you, not really for others. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you like this review. If you have, please do thumb it up. Let me know what you thought in the description box down below. Share this video with the ones you love. Stay spiritual and subscribe to my channel here on YouTube. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. No matter how much all of these influences around you are overpowering and mesmerizing, over the top, and you have the feeling sometimes you're squished in a corner, don't be scared. You have your aura, your bubble, and within yourself, you always have to know that as long as you don't give up on love, nothing bad will come to you or harm will come to you. Thank you guys so much for watching. Love ya. See you soon. Take care. Bye.